Zane may just have the secret to why Elder Mother's cooking tastes so good. Ruth discovers that there's an entire drug infirmary right there in the compound. We have yet another Ruthless Oval crossover, and why is Aaron so protective of that little duffel bag? Cult leaders, yeah, they have their own special way of raising themselves from the dead right after they've been poisoned with a lethal dose of heroin. And one of the things that we can get excited about is the fact that the highest just may have a prophecy after he dreamt about his own death. We're going to dive deep into all of these ruthless situations and a lot more as I break down scene by scene of season 4, episode number 2 of Tyler Perry's Ruthless. The drama begins when Ruth and River try to resuscitate the highest. River is panicking because instead of standing 10 toes down, he'd rather hide money underneath his robe and run. Talk about throwing the rock and hiding your hand. This is a classic example of what separates men from boys, ladies and gents. River is so frightened that instead of facing his fears and owning up to what he's done, he'd rather just run and hide. But Ruth won't let him do that. And in this scene, Ruth was like that mother that made you go back into the store and pay for what you stole, right? That mom that made you go and apologize for doing wrong. That parent that encouraged you to always do the right thing. She told River to just keep giving him chest compressions while she go and try to convince Manny to give her the keys to the infirmary. He told her that Elder Mother was away and that he couldn't get her the key. But after Ruth got a little stern with him, he ended up giving her the key and warned her that if she got caught, that he wasn't the one who gave the key to her. Well, we can't say that Sheriff Connolly wasn't warned. Matt called him on the last episode to warn him that he was no longer on the case. He advised him to watch his back because someone else was going to be taking over the compound case moving forward. Batty, Barbie, and Ken arrived at the sheriff's office while Sheriff Connolly was in his cop car being pleasured by the raccoon woman with no teeth. But it looks like she had teeth to me. Did she have teeth? But they were very firm about wanting to see him, and they told Deputy Kate that they're not leaving until they did. And we see in this scene that Batty Barbie here is the more lenient of the two, and her cohort Ken is the more stern, matter-of-fact, no-holds-barred type of agent. And all while they're there trying to find out where Sheriff Connolly is, we see Ruth rushing inside the infirmary to get medicines to try and resuscitate the highest. And the first thing that she noticed when she got there was what she thought was Lacey's dead body. And she was half right. It was Lacey for sure, but she's not dead. She looked around and finally grabbed what she was looking for. Then she headed back out the door when Lacey grabbed her arm. Of course, this frightened Ruth. I mean, she ran out of there so fast that she ignored the fact that Lacey was alive and screaming at her to take her out of her misery because she knows that the evil Elder Mother's gonna get at her when she gets back. Now, we already know what Elder Mother's coming with, right? When it comes to Lacey, she wants to keep her for herself and work her like a slave. Because before Lacey jumped in that truck, that's exactly what she had her doing. She was in the kitchen peeling potatoes. But Lacey was like, nah, I'll pass on peeling more potatoes. As Malcolm is mood swinging, going through anxiety and agitation of not having any more dope in his system, he's pleading with Daikon to let him go. He told Daikon that he was going to tell him everything that he needed to know about this whole investigation. And he keeps dangling this information carrot in Daikon's face, right? And it's not desirable enough though, right? At this point, Daikon knows about everything that Malcolm is desperately trying to share with him. And Daikon is like, look, that ain't even information for me, bruh. You gotta do better than that. He ordered the soldier to shut Malcolm up and to have fun with the electrical shock waves. Now, as he was leaving the trailer, he saw Ruth running to go and see her man, the highest. And he immediately gets in his feelings, right? Because Ruth has never ran that way to go and see him before. And he's also jealous because the highest always send for River and he's always sending for Ruth, but not sending for him. And he's feeling left out. But little does he know that Ruth is trying to keep the air flowing through his lungs right about now. And she ain't got time to be talking about their on again, off again love triangle. Let her go, Daikon. She's trying to go and save y'all man. She had the tetanus shot in one hand and the Narcan in the other. And it wasn't enough that she just risked her freedom, maybe even her own life, to grab those drugs from the infirmary. But Manny asked her to administer the tetanus shot because he's afraid of needles. Now, we're going to come back to this part because this is going to be exceptionally interesting. Now, when she returned with the Narcan, River was still working on the compressions to the highest chest. River was impressed by how much Ruth knew about medicines and all the first aid procedures. And how we remember things is through repetition, right? By doing them over and over and over again. And this is all that Ruth was trying to tell River, that she'd been in the streets long enough to know exactly what to do in these situations. Now, in the meantime, he's still got some of that "the heist is gonna kill me" drama brewing in his back pocket. And of course, he's nervous and he's scared. And he thinks that the heist is gonna be very angry at him when he figures out that he tried to kill him with the magic. And he's absolutely right. Now, what y'all think is gonna happen when he discovers that River overdosed him? I think that River needs to pull that little purple robe in between his legs and run for the border. And a little later, we're gonna find out why the highest treats him the way that he does. And it's really kind of sad. Elder Mother calls Zane to the kitchen to help her with Laura and Aaron's Waffle House plates. She had only been there for like 20 seconds before she started dangling her little nose over all the pots and the pans. And Elder Mother warned her not to stand there and sniff too long, or she was going to be leaving that trailer higher than the highest if she wasn't careful. Now, Zane asked Elder Mother the question that everybody wanted to know: what makes your foods taste so good? And my initial thought that Zane was going to be punished just for asking. But Elder Mother was so pleased with how well behaved and smart Zane was that she told her. She told her that the secret is inside the sauce. Now, that's not exactly giving her any secrets or anything, but it's a good starting point, right? Because now all they have to do is reverse engineer the ingredients in the sauce to figure out what it contains. But she did eventually tell her that she's going to tell her all the ingredients one day. Now, when we cut back to River and Ruth, we see that Ruth is leaving River to tend to the highest. She wants to leave that crime scene just how she found it because she knew that the highest was going to wake up soon. She told River to watch him, but if his pulse dropped, to come and get her out of her trailer, right? And as she was leaving, Manny told her to give him the keys back to the infirmary. And she gave him the keys, but she kept the ones that she used to get inside the infirmary. Smart move, Ruth. That was very clever. Now, we know that Manny has the IQ of a sack of rocks, right? So he won't even notice that the keys are missing. He's kind of like our new Oliver. We have another strange but now expected interaction between Ruth and her fair weather friends. At this point, I've accepted the fact that Joan has gone to the other side, and we don't know why. This is where I always highlight the fact that we didn't see this coming from this character. It would be nice to know what the reasoning is behind her change in direction. I mean, we don't have the background on how she went from desperately wanting to leave the compound to not only staying, but now encouraging her friends to stay as well. Joan is like an old on and off switch in the bathroom, right? And now that switch is definitely off. Now, Joan became a bit suspicious of Aaron because Lauren is suddenly speaking for him, and he's very protective of that duffel bag. So her antennas have went all the way up on something going on with him. Well, Joan, he wants to leave to go home, right? Just like you did a season ago. Yeah, that's what's wrong. Laura asked her when they were going to be able to see the highest, and Laura slick wanted to stay on the compound, right? Her nose is wide open, and she's still intrigued by it all, regardless of what Aaron has told and showed her. And Joan don't mind feeding her curiosity, and she said, oh, when he wakes up, he's going to meditate, and he may even have a prophecy, so we may not see him until the afternoon. And Laura lit up like a Christmas tree. She cannot wait to see the highest. And Aaron still got that stone face. Well, when are we going to leave? Why can't we leave? We want to leave. And Joan is like, then you'll miss the best part of your lives. Give me a break. And I'm so glad that Daikon came to the door because I just couldn't take anymore. He came to the door to help them with their bags. And here we see Aaron again protecting that bag, bringing more attention to it. But Daikon let it slide for now, and he decided to help Laura with her bags instead. And this is what they get. I don't feel sorry for them anymore because their whole story of how they just left everything that they had to follow Joan to this compound is just crazy to me. And Aaron let his wife convince him to leave his job, follow her to the compound so that they can get healed by the highest. And just judging from everyone's reaction when they first arrived, that should have been enough for them to turn back around, right? Now, here they are, trapped behind the compound gates with no hopes of escaping. No one ever leaves that compound the same way that they came in. So that's what they get. Now, the highest finally woke up and he's awakened from the dead. And what's the first thing that he says? He says that he's cold. Yeah, you think? Most dead people are cold, your highest. And he wanted to know how long he was out for, and that he didn't mean to hurt River, and yada yada. He asked River where the batch of dope came from, because the highest knows at this point that something wasn't quite right? He told River to go and ask Daikon because he'd know where it came from. Now, when he caught up with Daikon began to question why he allowed River to live after he found him going through that safe in the finance trailer. He told River the only reason that he let him live is because the highest love him so much. But during this conversation between them, we discovered that this is only Daikon's surface level reaction, right? Because he told River that the highest used to do the same thing to him that he'd been doing to River until Daikon sacrificed him. And this is the real reason he allowed River to live. Because if River is dead, then Daikon would be getting hogtied with little red balls sticking down his throat, curled up on the highest bedroom floor. So this is the real reason, right? He told River that he'd be gone as soon as he found a new boy toy. Louis finally came around to relieve Manny. Then suddenly Aaron got to go to the bathroom again. So because Manny felt indebted to him for sewing up his maker stick, he escorted him to the outhouse just like Joan requested. And what does Aaron want to do? He wants to take that bag with him. And this is the real reason he needed to go to that outhouse, right? He's trying to get a moment in to call somebody to come and rescue them. And I'm sorry to say it, but it may be a little too late for that Aaron, because we see him inside that cooler on season 4 trailer, and I'm sure that this is how he ended up there. Elder Mother and Zane bought the lobster and shrimp from the kitchen, laced with Elder Mother's secret sauce. And Elder Mother was offended because she likes to have her food eaten while it's hot, and Aaron done left to go to the bathroom. So she told Zane to take the plates back to the kitchen to keep it warm. But she probably don't want the sauce to get cold because it may deactivate that active ingredient that's keeping them all drugged up and happy. But nonetheless, they're trying to shove the food down Lauren's throat, right? And she should feel a little something at this point. Girl, if you didn't believe Aaron before, now you should be feeling away just from the way that they're trying to force feed you, right? That plate of neck bones. You should know that something is up at this point. And nothing really happened at the outhouse, only that Aaron wanted to see the knife that Manny quote unquote fell on just to see if it was rusty. But I'm sure that Aaron is just really curious to know how he really cut himself in that way. River let Ruth know that their boyfriend was awake now. He thanked Ruth for helping him to get his head on straight and for handling the situation the way that she did. He asked Ruth if life on the compound got to her, and she told River to just try to remember that whatever happens, to remember that they have a big payday coming. So let that be his new motivation. And yeah, that's a good way to look at it if anyone is able to live through all the shenanigans to get to the money, because at this point they're all lucky to be alive. Daikon made it in to see the highest, and the highest shared with him that he dreamt that he was dead, alone and cold. And he was right. I mean, he told Daikon to get rid of the last batch of dope that he had because they're trying to kill him. He told Daikon to find another supplier because he doesn't trust them. And here is where we see another possible Ruthless and Oval crossover correlation. Remember, Manny went to the pharmacy on the Oval to pick up the drugs for the highest, and I'm wondering if it was the dope or something that Elder Mother ordered for her special sauce. If we remember Cuz, y'all remember Cuz from the Oval? He told Alan to be careful with what Hunter was taking because that current batch of dope contained fentanyl, and if you took too much that it would kill you. So this may be what the highest has taken as well. One thing I like to point out is the direction of the camera when Daikon looked inside the dope drawer. Now, why did the camera focus on this empty drawer? Right? Why didn't they simply give us a wide shot of Daikon standing at the drawer? Why did they want us to see that the drawer was empty? And I'm thinking that Daikon put 2 and 2 together and noticed that if all the dope is gone, that River had to have overdosed the highest. I mean, all the dope is gone. And no one really knows how much dope was in there, except for the people that gives it to him, right? Now that he knows that the highest dreamt that he has gone to the raccoon, I'm wondering if in the next episode that Daikon will confront River on where all the dope went to. Now, after Sheriff Conley relieved himself inside the bare mouth of that Rakadushi woman, he made it back to the station to meet up with Kyle and Desiree, aka Ken and Bobbi. They told him that the FBI agent Brian hadn't checked in a while, so they want to know what was going on. And Sheriff Conley told him that Brian was an a-hole, right? That he thought of himself to be high and mighty. He hadn't seen Brian, and that Brian went back to DC. And Sheriff Conley is a whole idiot, right? These are real FBI agents who are not in your little plot. They're not a part of your little scheme. And people know exactly where they are and why they're there. And you're going to run your little smart aleck mouth and say that their agent was an a-hole. Okay, buddy. Now, you got to show them your camera footage, idiot. Now, do y'all think that Andrew, Melinda, and Deputy Polk will show up on those cameras too? Remember, Polk had a camera right out there on his porch that fed the monitor back at the police station. So they may just see that. And if we notice that Andrew never came up in this conversation, do they even know that Andrew is there on the compound? At the beginning of the episode that we saw last week, Baddie Barbie told the agents that 2 agents were on the compound. Was she talking about Andrew and Brian or someone else? Now, if we go all the way back to season 1, episode 1, we were led to believe that 2 agents were already there on the compound before Brian even went on assignment. But then they know that Andrew was there though, right? I don't know. This is all too confusing. But we've got to somehow keep up with the true number of men that are on the compound, on the inside, like Sam would say from the Oval. And that's a whole other issue. Now that I think about it, is Sam with the raccoon too? Sam never did send anyone to the compound. Even after his godson's daughter was kidnapped and held captive, Richard begged him on more than a couple of occasions to send someone in and to just get, check on little Callie. And all Sam would say is, we got a man on the inside. But that's all he would say. He did absolutely nothing. Oh, okay, I'm getting off track here. Let's wrap this up. Sheriff Conley told them that they can look at the footage from the outside of the station and that there wasn't much to see on the inside. And Ken wanna look at all the footage right now. But Barbie said that they could wait until the morning. They wanted to know if Sheriff Conley knew of any nearby hotels so that they can get some rest. And, he chumping them off again. You're the FBI agent. You don't know where the hotels are. And you think that law enforcement, on all levels would work together, especially when things are going wrong. But not Sheriff Conley. He's got a fresh mouth every time they ask him a question. Oh, nasty self. But Sheriff already know that his days as sheriff are over and his days are numbered. So if he was smart, he'd just go ahead and leave town. Now, in our final scene, we see Manny and all of his muscles. This man's got muscles everywhere, right? We find out that he's, I can't even think right now, but that he's big and he's swole. And, as tatted as he is, he's afraid of needles. Well, syringes for sure. Ruth told him to turn around and to pull his drawers down. He did, and then she gave him the tetanus shot so that infection wouldn't set in from his maker stick being wounded. And then, guess who popped up? It's Daikon, of course. Daikon magically appears out of the bushes, from behind the buses. He can walk through walls. Daikon be everywhere, don't he? Anyway, he wanted to know what Ruth was doing, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they're going to get out of this one. Now, how will Ruth talk her way out of it? I don't know. How did she get the medicine from the infirmary? Who gave her permission? And why is she shooting Manny in the butt? Daikon has a lot of questions. What will they say? Now, this concludes my full breakdown of episode 2, season 4 of Tyler Perry's Ruthless. Now, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. You know I'd appreciate it. And if you're a fan of the show, just like I am, go ahead and subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Ruthless TV, you guys. And I'm going to see you in the next one.